The boy carried a wooden box onto the stage of America's Got Talent and set it down at his feet. He looked at Simon Cowell. He said, "My dad told me not to open this alone. He said, wait until the right moment. Wait until there are people around you who deserve to hear it." He knelt down on the stage floor. He opened the box. And Simon Cowell broke down before he even understood what was inside. Another Tuesday night taping. The Pasadena Civic Auditorium, packed with 3,000 people. Cameras rolling, millions watching from home. Another hopeful contestant stepping into the spotlight. Simon Cowell sat at the judge's table in his black shirt, arms crossed, that familiar expression of settled skepticism. He had been doing this long enough to believe he had seen every kind of entrance, every kind of prop, every kind of story designed to make him feel something before the performance started. He had not seen this. The boy who walked out was named Eli Hartman, 17 years old. Slight build, dark eyes that were steady in a way that 17 usually isn't. He carried the box in both hands, held against his chest, the way you carry something you are afraid of dropping. It was small, wooden, old-looking, the kind of box that has a history you can see in the grain of it. He set it on the floor at the center of the stage and stood beside it. He did not look at it again. Terry Crews came forward from the wings, easy and warm, the way Terry always is. "Eli, tell us about yourself." Eli said he was from Bend, Oregon. He said he was 17. He said he played piano. "And that box," Terry said, looking down at it. "What's in there?" "I don't know yet," Eli said. The audience shifted. Terry tilted his head. "You don't know? I've never opened it," Eli said. "My dad gave it to me when I was 11. He told me not to open it alone." A pause, a short one. He died 6 weeks later. The auditorium went quiet. The way rooms go quiet when something real lands in them, completely, suddenly, as if someone turned down a dial. Howie Mandel set down his pen. Heidi Klum's hand found her collarbone. Sofa Vergara looked at the box on the floor, and then at Eli's face, and did not look away. He said, "Wait for the right moment," Eli continued. He said, "Wait until there are people around you who deserve to hear it." He looked at the audience. 3,000 people, cameras, the lights. He looked back at Terry. "I think this is the moment." Simon Cowell looked at the box. He looked at the boy. He looked at the 6 years sitting between a dead man's instruction and this stage. And something collapsed in Simon's face. Not dramatically. Not with noise. The way things collapse when the weight finally exceeds the structure. His hand came up to cover his mouth. The man who had built an empire on his own composure could not find it. To understand what happened next, you need to understand what happened 6 years earlier. Thomas Hartman was 44 years old, and the kind of man who repaired things. Not professionally, just by nature. If something broke in the house, a drawer pull, a hinge, a chair leg going soft, Thomas fixed it before anyone else noticed it needed fixing. He kept a workshop in the garage. It smelled like cedar and linseed oil and the particular dusty warmth of tools that get used regularly. He went out there most evenings after dinner, and sometimes he took Eli with him, and sometimes he didn't, and both were fine. The workshop was his thinking place, his quiet place. He worked as a structural engineer. Bridges, mostly, the kind of work that requires you to think about what holds things up and what happens when it doesn't. He was good at it. His colleagues respected him. He was not famous. He was not wealthy in the way that gets noticed. He was the kind of man who was exactly what he appeared to be, which is rarer than it sounds. His wife, Carol, taught 4th grade. They had been married 18 years. Eli was their only child. born late enough that Thomas had already thought carefully about what kind of father he wanted to be. He had arrived at a simple answer. Present. That was the whole answer. Present at dinner. Present at school plays. Present on Saturday mornings when there was no agenda and you could just be somewhere together. Eli was 11 when Thomas was diagnosed. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The kind of diagnosis that doesn't offer much of a runway. Thomas took 2 days to himself after the doctors told him. He went to the workshop. He stayed there both evenings, longer than usual, and Carol let him have that without asking questions. On the 3rd day, he came back to the house and sat down with Eli at the kitchen table. He told him the truth in plain language, the same way he explained engineering when Eli asked, not simplified into false comfort, but translated into words a person could actually hold. "I'm sick," he said, "the kind of sick that doesn't get better. We're going to have more time together, but we don't know how much." Eli asked how much. Thomas said maybe 6 months, maybe less. It was less. In the weeks after the diagnosis, Thomas went to the workshop differently, still in the evenings, still after dinner, but with a focus that Carol noticed and understood and didn't interrupt. He was building something. She could tell by the sounds, the careful sounds, the measuring sounds, not the quick sounds of repair, but the slow sounds of construction. He wouldn't say what it was. Not to Carol, not to Eli. He finished it on a Tuesday evening in late October. He called Eli into the workshop. He set the box on the workbench under the light. It was small, fitted lid, dovetailed joints at the corners, the kind Thomas only used when he wanted something to last. He had used a piece of walnut from a board he'd been saving for years. He'd bought it when Eli was born, no particular project in mind, just the sense that someday the right thing would come along. He slid it across the workbench to Eli. "There's something inside," Thomas said. "Don't open it yet. Not alone. Wait until there are people around you who deserve to hear it." He put his hand over his son's hand. "You'll know when." Eli asked what was inside. Thomas smiled. "Something I should have said out loud a long time ago, but I kept finding other ways to say it. This one is for when words feel like the only right tool." Eli carried the box home and put it on his shelf. He stared at it through the last weeks of his father's life, through the slower mornings, the hospital visits, the day that Carol sat down with him and told him what Eli already knew was coming. He stared at it after. It sat on his shelf through 6th grade and 7th, through the 1st year when everything felt wrong, and the 2nd year when it felt like a different kind of wrong, through 8th grade and 9th. He thought about opening it alone many times. He reached for it more than once. He always put it back. His father had said not to. His father had said, wait. His father had said there would be a moment when he'd know. He was 16 when he started playing piano. Not lessons. He had no patience for lessons. He found an old keyboard at a garage sale, brought it home on his bicycle in pieces, taught himself by ear and by obsession. He played every day. Carol would come home from school and hear it from the driveway. She'd stand outside the front door for a moment before going in, just to listen. He got good fast, the way people get good at things they feel called to rather than assigned to. He started writing music, quiet pieces, mostly, patient ones, the kind of music that knows where it's going without being in a hurry to get there. He was 17 when he heard about the audition. He went to his room. He looked at the box on the shelf. He thought about a Tuesday evening in late October, a workbench under a light, a piece of walnut saved since before he was born, dovetailed joints at the corners, his father's hand over his. He called his mother into the room. He showed her the application. He showed her the box. He said, "I think I know when." Carol Hartman drove him to Los Angeles herself. She was in the audience that night, 5th row. She was the only person in the building besides Eli who knew what was in the box. Thomas had told her years ago, quietly. She had kept it the way you keep something that isn't yours to give, carefully, until the person it belonged to was ready. He thought that was the end of the story. Until tonight. Eli knelt on the stage floor and lifted the lid of the box. Inside was a folded piece of paper, and beneath it, something else, small, flat, wrapped in a piece of the same flannel Thomas used in the workshop. Eli unfolded the paper first. His hands were steady. The auditorium was holding its breath. He read it once to himself, just once. Then he looked up. "It's a song," he said. "My dad wrote me a song, chord names and everything." His voice didn't. "Not yet. He knew I'd figure out how to play." Heidi Klum made a sound. A small one. Involuntary, Howie Mandel pressed both hands flat on the table. Sofia Vergara looked away from the stage. Then, immediately back. As if she'd needed 1 second to gather herself before she could keep watching. Simon Cowell said nothing. He was past words entirely. Eli set the paper on the edge of the stage. He unwrapped the flannel. Inside was a guitar pick. Old, worn on one edge. Thomas Hartman's guitar pick. From the years before Eli was born, Thomas had played in a band in college. He thought music might be his life, before engineering turned out to be. He had kept the pick in a drawer in the workshop for 20 years. Worn on one edge. Smooth from use, the kind of object that carries the shape of the person who held it. Eli held it up so the audience could see it. Then he walked to the piano at the side of the stage. He played his father's song. Share this story if it moved you. Subscribe so you never miss moments like this one. He played it from the handwritten chord names on the paper, filling in the spaces the way his father had known he would. The melody was Eli's, built over Thomas's structure, the same way a bridge is built. Bones first. Then the surface people actually cross on. He played for 4 minutes. The auditorium did not move, not one person. 3,000 people completely still, listening as hard as they could. 3,000 people completely still. The cameras held on Simon Cowell's face. What was there was not something that needed to be explained or named. It was grief and gratitude and the specific kind of wonder that arrives when you understand that love planned this far ahead. When the last chord resolved, the auditorium erupted. 3,000 people on their feet. Howie Mandel standing, jaw set, clapping with the weight of someone who knows he has just witnessed something that won't be forgotten. Heidi Klum crying openly, both hands pressed to her face. Sofia Vergara on her feet with her hand extended toward the stage as if she could reach Eli from where she sat. Simon stood up. He looked at Eli at the piano. He looked at Carol Hartman in the 5th row. She was standing with both hands pressed to her heart. She was smiling, which is a remarkable thing to be doing when you are also crying that hard. Simon pressed the golden buzzer without sitting back down. The confetti fell gold and silver over Eli Hartman. 17 years old. Bend, Oregon. He sat at the piano with his father's guitar pick in his hand and looked out at the room. He found his mother's face in the 5th row. He held up the pick so she could see it. She pressed her hand to her mouth. She nodded. Later, backstage, Simon found Eli alone for a moment in the corridor. He sat down next to him on the bench. He didn't say much. He asked to see the pick. Eli handed it over. Simon looked at it for a moment, this worn, ordinary, irreplaceable thing, and handed it back. He knew exactly what he was doing, Simon said. The box, the timing, all of it. Eli looked at the pick in his palm. He was an engineer, he said. He thought about what holds things up. Simon nodded. He didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. Some things are built to outlast the hands that made them. Some instructions only make sense when you've grown into them, and some fathers leave a piece of themselves in a locked box, trusting that their child will find the moment and will not open it alone.